every single Tuesday we're sitting here talking about a different MVP frontrunner. Are the Ravens right?
Yes, the Ravens are right. Lamar Jackson is not just the MVP frontrunner. He snatched that bad boy last night. And really what it came down to for me was the fact that Lamar was the best player on the field. More times than not, that's going to be the case. But he took what the defense gave him. They out-schemed the San Francisco 49ers. And I want to show you that scheme here on a play on the touchdown pass that he had to Zay Flowers. Right here, the defense doesn't know if this is going to be a toss pitch outside or if it's going to be sprint option for Lamar Jackson. But look at all the eyes that are in the backfield, and it opens up this massive hole behind it. And Lamar, boom, just like that, Johnny on the spot makes a throw. Now, you see Zay Flowers throw his hand up here at the very top of his route, which makes me think this was not his original route, which makes it mean that him and Lamar Jackson are on the same page in the most intense situations in a game. They're seeing it the same exact way. But that's part of what makes Lamar Jackson the MVP. The biggest growth he's had this moment, growth moment he's had this year has been his maturation in taking the check down. Sometime as a game-changing quarterback, you always want to make that game-changing play. Lamar has learned that now all he has to do at times is just manage the game the right way, and you'll get the results that he had.
Neek, what are you seeing from Lamar? Is he the MVP in your eyes right now?
Yeah, it seemed obvious last night that Lamar Jackson was the engine to that offense. The defense played well, created a lot of turnovers, but what Lamar did when they didn't blitz against that defensive line that the 49ers had, his ability to buy time and make plays, and what he did when they did blitz was make quick decisions and get the ball out of his hands. I think for a lot of quarterbacks with athleticism, anywhere close to Lamar Jackson, they end up holding onto the ball a little too long, and Lamar did that maybe once last night, but by and large, he was buying time, allowing the receivers to get open even when the play design wasn't as perfect as it was in that video that RG3 just showed us.
Open and shut, right, Jeff? MVP.
No, not open.
Oh,
what? Listen, I'm all for Lamar played fantastic. They dominated that game. 5 turnovers on defense obviously helps towards those numbers. But when you look at the MVP in totality, I would say that Christian McCaffrey, I would say Tyreek Hill if he ends up getting 2,000 yards. Like when you look at Lamar's numbers, overall, like he's 15th in passing. I know he leads, he's got 700 yards rushing. He does the thing his team, he's the most valuable player on his team, there's no doubt. And if the award goes to the best or the quarterback on the best team in the league, Lamar definitely is going to win that, right? But if you're looking at this as an award that could go to someone other than a quarterback, look no further than the running back on the other team last night, who Purdy's giving the ball away at an easy clip. McCaffrey played great again, right? I mean, this guy has over 100 yards rushing. He's involved in the pass game. He's going to complete drives, score touchdowns. It's what the guy does. So do I love Lamar? Absolutely. But am I handing it to him? If I'm John Harbaugh, I'm doing the same speech he did, right? You know, cameras are in there. I'm going for my guy as well. And he's in the conversation. But if it's a quarterback award, Lamar will get it. If it goes to, you know, if Hill gets 2,000, which I'm not sure he will because of the injury, or McCaffrey stays on the pace he does. If it's the most valuable player in the game, I mean, McCaffrey's got almost 1,400 yards rushing. Yeah. He's got over 500 passes. He's got 21 touchdowns. Like, you look at all the things the guy has done. Same for Hill. If Hill gets over 2,000, it's just those numbers are crazy.
We saw it, the graphic was up. I hope we can put it back up with the MVP odds right now. Lamar now the favorite. Last week, Purdy was the favorite. So you can see how volatile this has been week to week. It's just that kind of year in that MVP race.
Purdy might be out. I'm not sure you even want to waste that plus 1,400.
Purdy is not. A 4-interception night will bang up your MVP odds,
yes.
I think,
especially late in the season.
Especially at this time in the season. So I do want to talk about the 49ers, though. Like, I mean, this was unstoppable juggernaut team. Like, who can possibly do anything? Like, it was last night, the game we play as bad game or bad sign. What was that for the Niners last night?
Yeah, I think it was a bad game for the 49ers. Listen, at the end of the day, if you didn't love that game last night, you just don't like football.
Amen.
Right? It was a physical affair, one in the trenches. And the thing that popped out to me, at least, from the 49ers was it felt like they were trying to win the MVP, whereas the Ravens were just trying to win the game. So Brock Purdy, obviously the 3 tip picks, listen, there's nothing he can do about that. But the way that they played, the numbers support the fact that they tried to run the ball with Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
But they weren't as consistent early in the game running the ball with Christian McCaffrey when they had success doing it. So to me, seeing Brock push the ball down the field, 1 run, 3 play action passes instead of 2 runs and 2 play action passes, They have to get back to just trying to win the football game and not worry about the numbers that are going to come along with that. I just thought that Brock Purdy did the one thing that Lamar didn't. He forced some things down the field that he didn't need to.
Yeah.
And the Ravens took some advantage of it.
Well, I think early on you saw it, right? You get down to the red zone, and we just talked about what McCaffrey has done so well.
Yeah.
And listen, you're throwing a ball into, I mean, there's no, I don't care how long you've been playing quarterback. You could look at that. When he threw the ball, I'm screaming, no, 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 on TV. You're seeing a whole lot of white jerseys back there. I think the moment for Brock Purdy, once that interception happened, you saw him begin to press, right? And, so he sees there's going to be a blitz off, so he pulls the ball, which is the right call. He didn't have a good window. Like at some point, like to Robert's point about sometimes the best play is to pull it down, try to get what you can get. Let's play the next down instead of trying to force things. He started to try to force balls in there. He's running the sideline, throwing across his body. Again, it hits Kittle, and there's another interception from Hill on the ground. All of those are plays where you're trying to make the big play.
Did the Ravens expose something here for the 49ers? Is this a sign of trouble for them?
Well, I mean, it's only a sign of trouble if the 49ers have to keep playing the Ravens every week, because it seemed like the 49ers punch everybody in the mouth and out-physical every team they play, but they couldn't do that to the Ravens. And not to say that they aren't as physical as the Ravens, they are. But a lot of teams crumble under that pressure that the 49ers had, and we saw a different version of the 49ers last night. Once Brock threw that red zone interception against what it looked like was cover 6, it seemed like the play calling got a little less aggressive, a little bit more conservative to protect Brock Purdy, and then there were some unlucky tips that ended up in interceptions. And the 49ers defense was the most concerning part about last night's game, is it felt like they were fighting hard early to create those red zone stops, but they couldn't hold on for the course of the entire game. And their D-line has historically been the strength of that defense, but they had little to no impact on last night's game. And if they're not going to win in the places where they have advantages, then they're not going to beat very many teams. Fortunately, there aren't a lot of teams like the Ravens in the NFL.
Yeah, let me say this about last night. One point he just brought up. I think where you can say Lamar differentiates himself from every other quarterback in the game. We used to talk about Tom Brady and Peyton Manning being able to manipulate the pocket. Yeah. Lamar Jackson is as good as anybody in the league of That's what made their pass rush ineffective, because it's the slight step, the slight bend. It's all that. It's not just his leg. It's the ability to move and keep his eyes down the field that made that pass rush struggle.
Right. They're trying to get back to the Super Bowl and win it. So the questions are about, are they good enough to do it? So after they win and break their losing streak, do you feel better about them, worse about them, or about the same?
I think I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum. I actually feel much better about the Eagles. I will say this, though. They're late in the season right now, still trying to figure out who they are. So, Dan, I ask you this question. Have you ever been windsurfing?
No.
Me neither, all right? But I'm not going to go out and try to windsurf in the middle of the ocean if I don't know how to do that, right? I'm going to stay by the shore. I'm going to get the hang of it. I'm going to know my strengths and my weaknesses. And then I'm going to go into the deep water. Right now, the Eagles are in deep water, and they don't know how to windsurf. And here's the problem. When I watched the game in the first half, they had their best first half of the season. 20 points, most points they've scored in the first half all year. They were running the football, utilizing play action, and utilizing RPO. Then in the second half, it all changed, kind of changed when Jalen Hurts didn't run out of bounds right before the half, and they didn't get another opportunity to take a shot into the end zone. But this team's identity, I know it, you know it, Dom knows it, Jeff knows it, all the fans in the stands know it. It's to run the freaking football. First and second down, they're one of the best teams in the league, 4th in the league in positive run percentage, but they're 21st in frequency. This team has to get back to being the brute force of running the football, and that's going to help their defense as well, because their defense was playing lights out in the first half.
Nick, I know how Saturday feels about this idea about the Eagles have to run the football. So I'd like to go to you first. A, have you ever been windsurfing? And B, how do you feel about the Eagles?
Hey, speaking of the all-white team.
After last night.
I've never been windsurfing. I don't even know what that is, but I do know that Jeff's probably right and RG3's probably right. They got to get physical and run the football. They had trouble stopping the run against a pretty one-dimensional team yesterday. It's concerning. So while Robert still has faith in that team going forward, I think I agree with the other thing that he said was that they don't really have an identity, and their identity is a bit gone. They're a bit shaky when it comes in those big moments. I can't imagine Jalen Hurts just having a brain lapse like he did before halftime. That seems uncharacteristic for him, and there's so many things that seem uncharacteristic for this team all season, but they've happened all season, so we have to kind of accept, maybe they don't know who they are, but we kind of know who they are. They're an okay team. They're not as good or nowhere near as great as they were last year. They're okay, and that doesn't bode well for a team that has to rip through the entire NFC. They're not getting a bye, and they're going to have to face the 49ers at some point. Despite the fact the 49ers looked rough last night, they still are a physical bunch that loves to run the ball. If you can't stop the run against the Giants, you're going to struggle to do it against the 49ers.
I think that's the point, right? I mean, like 3-4 weeks from now, the Eagles are going to be playing playoff games against playoff teams. The Giants are not going to be one of them. Right? So, like, they didn't exactly put them away easily. Like, what do we take out of yesterday for them?
Well, I'm going to say this. I'm leaning more towards Robert than I am Fox, and here's why. If you look at this football team, they are the only team in the NFL to beat 4 teams this year that have 9 wins or more, right? They beat Miami, they beat Dallas, they beat Buffalo, they beat Kansas City. If I'm calculating right, all those teams minus Buffalo are going to be in the playoffs. So they have beaten playoff teams. So if you're looking at this football team right now, you go, we haven't played our best. We are still trying to figure it out. However, we have won some games against some really good ones. Listen, it is hard to go to a Super Bowl and then try to get back to a Super Bowl. They are doing something that is very rarely done. That they're still in the mix, still battling, speaks volumes about what this team is about. They're not happy about the way they won, not because of offensively other than the field goals, but, man, you can't turn the ball over the way they have on special teams. A lot of things that they did weren't polished. But, man, winning matters. Yeah. Getting on a hot streak matters going to playoffs, and they can beat anybody.
Yeah, Jeff, I think your point there is so important for the fans at home to understand. They have 11 wins.
Yeah.
Yes.
They are upset, and we're kind of going. We're talking about them in this way because they made it to the Super Bowl last year.
Right.
Not because those 11 wins don't matter. And I think that's why Devontae Smith feels the way that he does. They want to be playing better right now, and they're not.
Yeah, I think that's the key, right? We're not talking, I mean, we're not asking, are they good? We know they're good, but they want to get back to the Super Bowl. Neek, when you look at the rest of the NFC playoff field, like, who do you like them to beat?
Yeah, that's the tough thing about predicting what's going to happen in the playoffs this year is I think that the Eagles could beat anyone, including the 49ers. But I don't know if they can beat everyone. That's the concerning part. When they make the mistakes that they've been making all season long, at some point that's going to come up and bite you in a bad moment against a good team. So would I be incredibly shocked if they made it back to the Super Bowl? No, it wouldn't blow my mind because, as I mentioned, they're capable of beating anyone. But do I think it's likely? Would I bet on it? Hell no. Not the way that they make mistakes at this point in the season. They're playing bad football at the most important time of the season.